Today we're going to talk about 8.6 cars. We're going to look at the loans you might take out for owning a car, and we'll talk about leasing a car and maybe talk about the difference between the two. So in the last section, we looked at how to compute simple interest. It's a nice place to start to understand what interest is, but usually when we invest money or we borrow money, they don't use simple interest, unfortunately. They use compound interest. So this is nice when investing because it means that not only does the money you put into the account earn interest, but so do the interest dollars that keep getting added to your account periodically. However, when we're borrowing, not always the best thing in our favor, unfortunately. So what we're going to look at is we're going to compute monthly payments and interest costs for a car loan. So now we're going to talk about those monthly payments instead of investing so much money monthly or annually or n times per year. So an installment loan is a loan that you pay off with weekly or monthly payments or in some other time period. So typically with cars, we're talking about a monthly payment. Fixed installment loan or regular monthly payments. All right, so that's typically what we're looking at here. So since A stands for the same amount in the two formulas that we've been dealing with, we can set the expressions equal to each other and then solve for the PMT, meaning the payment. So if we're looking at these two equations, we can let this P for the annuity, we can let that be PMT instead of just P. All right, and if we set these two equations equal, the compounding interest in the annuity, and again, instead of P meaning what we're investing each month or each period, we're going to let that be PMT, and we're going to solve for what that monthly payment or what that fixed installment payment, that regularly monthly payment is going to be. So with some magic, all right, we can go through and manipulate it and we can figure out what PMT is. So the loan payment formula for fixed installment loans, all right, the regular payment amount or PMT required to repay a loan of P dollars paid N times per year for T years at an annual rate R can be computed as the following. So this is another formula you need to add to your formula sheet. All right, the PMT, the payment, is going to be P, where P is the loan amount this time, not the principal. All right, times 1 over, or R over N, all over 1 minus the quantity 1 plus R over N to the negative NT. All right, so if we go through our first example here, suppose we're borrowing $15,000 for a new car. You can select one of the following loans, each requiring regular monthly payments. So this is where N is going to be 12. Okay, so you're paying it each month. So installment loan for A is a 4-year loan at 8% interest. Installment loan B is a 6-year loan at 10% interest. So let's find the monthly payments and total interest for loan A. So the monthly payments include the interest that you're paying on the loan. So P, what we're borrowing, is $15,000. Our rate is 0.08. We're going to make 12 payments per year, so monthly payments, and we're going to put that over 1 minus the quantity 1 plus our rate over our monthly payments, raised to the negative 12 times 4, because we're having this for a 4-year loan. Be careful with your calculator. Put parentheses exactly where I do. Double check that you get 366.19. To make sure that we're paying off the loan, we are going to round up to the nearest dollar. So we would really be paying $367 per month. That includes the $15,000 that we're borrowing, plus the interest that we are going to owe. In part B, finding the monthly payment and total interest for loan B. So again, we're taking out $15,000, but this time it's a 6-year loan, so T is 6, and our R is 0.10, okay? N is still 12. So as we go through and we plug in all of that information, double check on your calculator that you're doing this correctly. We get 277.887. Again, we'll round up to the nearest dollar to $278. So which one's the better deal, right? So you might think, oh, well, 4 years at a lower interest rate or 6 years at a higher interest rate. If we're spanning it over 6 years, yeah, we have a lower monthly payment, right? But is that worth it in the end? How much interest are we really paying? So let's go ahead and calculate the interest for both of these loans. So how do we determine the interest? Well, the interest is our monthly payment times N, how many payments we're making per year, times the number of years that we're paying off this loan. All right, so in loan A, we have $367 as our monthly payment. We're making that payment 12 times a year for 4 years. All right, and then we have to subtract the actual loan amount. So it's minus the actual loan, what we're borrowing. Okay, so in this case, it's $15,000. So if we take a look at it, what we're really paying at the end of this loan is we're going to pay $17,616. If we subtract the loan amount, this is how much we're paying in interest alone. So we're paying $2,616 just in interest, and that's for loan A. For loan B, if we take a look, our monthly payment is $278. We're making this 12 times a year for 6 years. So what we're really paying for this car is $20,016. We're going to subtract the loan amount, and in the end, we're really paying $5,016 in interest alone. So what you should really think about is, yes, even though loan A has higher monthly payments in a shorter amount of time, it's worth it because you're going to pay significantly less in interest. So those are some things you need to think about. This concept of interest is an interesting one because many people in today's society throw tons of money away every year just in interest. You don't get anything in return. So remember, just because a bank or a car dealership is willing to give you the loan does not mean it is in your best interest to do so. If you can't afford the payments on a 3-year loan for a car, you can't afford the car. Think of that as like a rule of thumb. So in extending the loan, you end up having a car that depreciates faster than you are paying it off because you're paying more interest in the long run. All right, so this leads us into leasing a car. Sometimes it might be worth your while, sometimes it might not. So leasing, you pay a specified amount of money over a specified time for the use of a product, right? You're leasing something. So a closed-end lease is each month you make a fixed payment based on estimated usage. When the lease ends, you return the car and pay for mileage that is over the estimated usage. That's typically how car leases take place. An open-ended lease, each month you make a fixed payment on the car's residual value. Residual value is the estimated resale value of the car at the end of the lease determined by the dealer. So you have to really take a look at what is a better deal for you if you are going to lease a car. So let's look at the pros and cons of leasing versus buying a car. Okay, so you can read through those. Lease requires only a small down payment or no down payment. Lease payments for a new car are lower than loan payments for the same car, so typically you're spending less per month. Most people can lease a more expensive car than they would be able to buy. So if you're looking to, have a more luxurious car, you might be able to afford a lease rather than actually buying it. When the lease ends, you return the car to the dealer and do not have to be concerned about selling the car. It's not yours. The disadvantages, the cons, when the lease ends, you don't own the car, so now you have to find another car. Most lease agreements have mileage limits. 12,000 to 15,000 miles per year is typical. If you exceed the number of miles, there's considerable charges. So if you're driving a lot, leasing may not be in your favor. When mileage penalties and other costs at the end of the leasing period are taken into consideration, the total cost of leasing is almost always more expensive than financing, meaning buying a car. While leasing the car, you're responsible for keeping it in perfect condition. You're liable for any damage, so any dings that you might get in a parking lot, those are on you. Leasing does not cover maintenance, so you still have to pay for maintenance of the vehicle. And there are penalties for ending the lease early. So if you take a look, there's way more cons than advantages to leasing. So then we have to get to insurance, right? So whenever you have a car, you always have to get insurance. So what is insurance? Insurance is protection against loss associated with unexpected events. Okay, so there's different types. There's bodily injury liability, which covers the cost of lawsuits if someone is injured or killed in an accident where you were at fault. Then there's property damage liability. This covers damage to other cars and property from negligent operation on your car. So if you get in a car accident that's your fault and there's damage to the other car, that's what this covers. Collision coverage. This pays for damage or loss of your car if you are in an accident. Okay. Then there's comprehensive coverage. This protects your car from bad things like fire, theft, falling objects, acts of nature, and collision with an animal. So like if a tree falls on your car, that's what this comprehensive coverage is. This is required when leasing a car with a loan. So these two are required, okay? If you lease a loan, if you buy a car, then it's not necessarily required, but you might choose to get it. Okay, so now let's talk about comparing monthly payments on new versus used cars, because a new car loses an average of 12% of its value the moment it's driven off the dealer's lot. So it may not always be worth your while to get that brand new car, all right, when you could buy a used car. So let's suppose you are thinking about buying a car and have narrowed down your choices to two options. All right, the new car, all right, that option, the new car costs $19,000 and can be financial with a 3-year loan, or finance, that should say, with a 3-year loan at 6.18%. So what's your monthly payment going to be? Well, we take that loan, $19,000, times the quantity R over N. Since we're talking car payments, we're talking monthly payments. All right, so N is going to be 12. All over 1 minus the quantity, 1 plus our R over N, raised to the negative N times 3 because it's a 3-year loan. And what we end up paying is $580 per month. Option number 2 is the used car option. This is a 2-year-old model of the same car, okay? It costs $11,500 and can be financed with a 3-year loan at 7.5%. So what's the monthly payment here? So again, the loan is $11,500. Your rate is 7.5%, so 0.075, 12 for N because it's monthly payments over that quantity. When you plug that into your calculator, you should get $357.72, so we would round that up to $358 as a monthly payment. So what is the difference in monthly payments between financing the new car and financing the used car? Well, it's a matter of $222. I'm simply subtracting $358 from $580. So that's a lot of money. If you multiply that by 12, you can figure out how much you're saving each year just by buying the used car versus the brand new car. So things to think about as we begin buying cars. The very last thing we need to talk about is there's still a cost to owning and operating a car. Not only do you buy the car, but you have to maintain it, right? You have to keep it in good working condition. So there's significant expense of owning and operating a car. So for instance, depending on the type of car, you can talk about a small sedan. It costs 44.9 cents, all right, per mile, and the cost per year is going to be significant, right? Or a medium sedan, and you can see the cost per year, and this is just in 2012, so that was 8 years ago. All right, so a large sedan, an SUV, which is four-wheel drive, that the cost is going to become more significant. Then we have to talk about the fuel expense as well. So the annual fuel expense, right, this is on top of the cost per year and the cost per mile, is equal to the annual miles driven over the miles per gallon times the price per gallon. So this is just another formula to add to your card, and that's annual fuel expense. So let's go through the next and last example and call it a day. Okay, so let's suppose you drive 36,000 miles per year and gas average is $3.50 per gallon. Let's suppose you're kind of deciding what kind of vehicle to get. What will you save in annual fuel expenses by owning a hybrid car averaging 40 miles per gallon rather than the SUV averaging 15 miles per gallon? So using that formula, let's look at the hybrid. So if we're driving 36,000 miles per year and I get 40 miles per gallon, then I have to multiply that by the cost of gas, $3.50 per gallon. So multiplying this all out, the fuel expense for the hybrid is $3,150. Doing the same thing for the SUV, how much we drive, 36,000 miles, we get 15 miles per gallon, and it costs $3.50 per gallon. So multiplying this all out, we end up with a cost of $8,400 just in fuel expenses per year. So if we go with the hybrid, how much are we saving? Simply take $8,400, subtract $3,150, and we end up with $5,250 per year just by owning a different vehicle. So these are things we all have to weigh when we're buying these vehicles. So now let's suppose we take that annual savings, all right, and we deposit the monthly fuel savings at the end of each month into an annuity that pays 7.25% compounded monthly. How much will you have saved at the end of 7 years? Round all computations to the nearest dollar. So now we're going to take the annual savings and we're going to divvy it up into monthly savings. So from above, we saved $5,250 annually. If we divide that by 12, we get our monthly savings of $437.50. Okay, so now what I want you to do is this is going to be our monthly installment for our annuity. That's our P, okay? I want you to put it into an annuity and figure out how much money we can make simply by taking our annual savings, splitting it up into monthly savings, and depositing that into an annuity for 7 years. Pause the video, come back and check. Okay, so remember the formula for an annuity. We take that P, which is our monthly savings in this case, we're going to put that towards our annuity, times the quantity 1 plus our rate, which was 7.25%. We're going to put this into the account monthly, so N is 12, for 7 years. So raised to the 12 times 7, and then our formula, we subtract 1, and we put that all over our rate divided by N, which is 12. When we throw that onto our calculator, at the end of 7 years, we could get $46,102, which is not bad. So things you need to think about when you're buying cars, all of the expenses, what you can save, and then if you invest that savings into a different type of an account, see how much money you can make. All right, if you have questions, let me know.